Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My guest today is retired NCIS Special Agent Tom Coyle, who was featured on this channel for the second time. And today with Tom, we're gonna talk about the recent shooting on Donald Trump and what went wrong with the United States Secret Service. How come something like that happened? Thanks for your time, Tom. Thanks for joining me today.
Good morning, Leonardo. Thanks for having me back. Looking forward to our discussion.
Well, you were with the NCIS, but you're also a security expert because during your career, you've been involved with personal security of high-profile people quite a few times. For instance, you were the team leader for the security of Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, and you also worked, for instance, overseas with the United States Secret Service while protecting President Bush. Would you like to tell us something about your background about security so that my viewers can know, well, I mean, why I called you and why we can call you a security expert to talk about this specific case?
Right, that's a good question. NCIS agents are tasked with all kinds of complex missions within the aegis of the Department of the Navy, and protective service is just one of those areas of expertise that many agents are called upon to display and be a part of a protective service team during their career. And I spent probably 50% of my career overseas, so we had a lot of requests for assistance to help a general or an admiral on travel who there may have been a threat against, to add to those teams. And so I got training both in Chesapeake, Virginia, towards the beginning of my career, and then a couple of years later in San Diego to take a more advanced course about it. So the average NCIS agent will not just investigate crimes against the Navy and Marine Corps, but help in any federal law enforcement situation that requires protective service experience and expertise. So admittedly, my training was some time ago, but we all saw what we saw on TV, and I think it's safe to say that there was some deficiencies at every level, leadership wise. Where I'm not blaming or casting any aspersions on the agents who were there, who did the best they could under those circumstances, but we'll discuss what the circumstances were here in a little bit.
Also, because we have to keep in mind that the Secret Service does a tremendous job most of the time, and that nothing of the sort had happened since the shooting of President Reagan in 1981, so in more than 40 years. So, of course, things went awry on that day, but we're not here to play the Monday morning quarterback, so to speak. Okay,
No.
Of course, let's give them credit for what they do, and of course, they did mistakes, as you mentioned. So, before getting into the questions that I have for you, let's summarize for my viewers what happened. So, 2 weeks ago, on July 13 of this year, during campaign rally in Pennsylvania, a 20-year-old man who was prone on a roof nearby shot the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, and missed his brain by a matter of millimeters. So he really went close to murdering Donald Trump. That's what happened in a nutshell, and I don't think we have to go in the details because that was just a few weeks ago. So everyone who's watching this video actually has very clear in their minds what happened. So Tom, let's start from a very basic question. So today, in the last few weeks, people on social media have been playing the experts of the United States Secret Service, but actually, till the day before, they didn't even know what the Secret Service was. So can you summarize for us what the United Secret Service does as an agency?
I can. They are an agency of almost 8,000 people, a few thousand special agents, but a large staff of technical experts and analysts and support people stationed all over the USA and a few foreign countries. Their primary mission is to protect the president, the vice president, and other individuals as identified by Congress, but they also have a big mission to investigate counterfeit currency and also credit card fraud. So they've been around a long while. They have a good reputation. Obviously, this presidential protective assignment to include former presidents is a no-fail mission, and I appreciate that they've, as do all Americans, that they've been successful for 40 years in keeping our presidents and presidential hopefuls safe. But I think because they have this no-fail mission, what that means to me is that in a democracy where you have a chief magistrate, like we do, a president, and people running for president, it goes to the very core of our democracy. If we can't protect our duly elected and those others that are running for the office, it goes to the core of our democracy if we're unable or unwilling to protect these people. And what happened 2 weeks ago is not just a mistake, but it's a series of activities that have been allowed to go on too long. Probably the first of which is maybe the Secret Service needs to hire more folks and not give the support mission to local and state quite as much, given that there appeared to be not enough Secret Service folks on the scene in Butler, PA that day. There's all kinds of different things that are being thought about, but the main thing I want to discuss is what I perceive as an egregious lack of leadership that day, trying to get the former president quickly from the stage to the car. That seemed to take way longer than it should have. And again, anybody can see it. You don't have to be a Secret Service guy or a special this or a special that. It took way too long. The President Trump was not pushed down on the ground quickly enough. He was allowed to get back up. These things are details, but they did not know at the time if there was a second shooter lurking around. They had one mission, and that was to get him quickly into his SUV. And then lack of leadership at the operational level, lack of coordination with the local police. Obviously, that has always been an issue because they don't necessarily share radios. They have somebody in the center, the ops center, the coordination center, representing local and state PD with a radio, and he can talk. It's not the ideal way to do it, but that's how we've been doing it all these years. Maybe that needs some rethinking. And then at the strategic level, the U.S. Secret Service didn't have enough agents for the former president. It's my belief, based on my experience, that the folks we saw protecting the former president that day was a composite team of DHS agents and a handful of Secret Service agents. But what we all saw was something that was so concerning. It was an obvious lack of choreography, what I would call operational choreography. The agents clearly appeared to have not worked together with one another. The agents expressed some concern about what do we do now. It was caught on a mic. The primary mission, especially after receiving rounds inbound, is to get that protectee off the X as quickly as possible and get them into a secure location. And that lack of urgency was not lost on anybody who saw it. And this gap in leadership at all three levels just has to change. And then let's talk about another piece, Leonardo, that we haven't really talked about. What about this other effects? What other consequences could come of this what do you imagine our adversaries are now thinking when they've seen this? I think this we've sort of emboldened, not sort of, we have emboldened our adversaries to maybe take a crack at the next candidate that comes around to try something that's never been tried before, because they see that we are pretty vulnerable in this area. So we have, by their inability to completely protect them, we have emboldened our adversaries, and that's a concern that is not going to be addressed anytime soon, unfortunately.
Let's take one step back and start from the beginning of this episode. So who was in charge of assessing the area around the stage that Trump would have given his speech from? Was it the United States Secret Service or the local police?
It was a Secret Service. An advance team goes to all locations a few days or a few weeks in advance and scopes it out, sees what the issues are, sees what the buildings look like, sees what the landscape looks like, tries to anticipate in advance what support they're going to need, whether it's more sharpshooters, canine support, drone support. All those sorts of things are assessed beforehand, and that's the job solely of the Secret Service, nobody else.
Okay, and how come that roof was left out of the security perimeter then?
I have no answer for you. I don't know. It looks, of course, hindsight is always 20/20, right? But it looks like an obvious, could have been a very fatal flaw in the plan. That rooftop was supposedly out of the security zone. I don't know why in the world it would have been out of the security zone. Nobody that has seen it could understand that. So that's a glaring mistake. There's just no good answer. Hopefully, the 3 different investigations that the federal government is starting will answer that very question. That's probably the biggest question of all. So
the guy the shooter, this guy by the name of Thomas Crooks, was spotted the first time like more than half an hour before he actually shot Donald Trump. So they had lots of time to stop him. Why didn't that happen? Was it like lack of leadership, lack of communication, underrating the threat? Anything else that comes to your mind?
It was all of those. They supposedly some Butler County SWAT team members spotted Crooks and tried to track him down and lost him in the crowd. But there was just a complete and utter breakdown in communications, in leadership. The Butler County officers should have been equipped with Secret Service radios and immediately radioed it back to the coordination center. And they should have said, President Trump is not going on that stage until we've got this sorted out. And that's really another leadership glaring error was this, because the agents assigned for his immediate close protection, Leonardo, don't make that kind of decision. The team leader, the SAC, the head person, who may or may not have been right there, typically they are there, should have made the decision right then. We're not putting on President Trump until this security issue is cleared up, and they did not do that. And just it's staggering to all Americans how that kind of basic decision was so flawed and so incorrect to let them continue to get up there and talk. They should have never allowed that.
If we watch the videos of that shooting, we hear someone in the crowd screaming something like he's on the roof, like moments before this guy shoots Donald Trump. But the police were inside that same building that the guy was staying on the roof. Is that normal procedure? I guess not. What happened there?
No, it's not normal procedure. Anybody that thinks about it for more than 5 seconds would realize, well, how are they going to see a adversary on the roof or some kind of shooter on the roof if they're inside the building. They're not going to necessarily hear somebody on the metal roof. I think a couple things happened. One, it was 100 degrees that day. I think they might have had some snipers or lookouts, police officials on the roof, and it may have become too hot for them to stay, and maybe they decided to get off. The investigation will determine the who, what, why, when, and where of all that. But the Secret Service is ultimately responsible for the security of its protectee. Local and state are there to render support and assistance, but they don't make any operational decisions regarding the safety of the principal. That's up to the Secret Service, and they dropped the ball in about 10 different ways that day, as everybody knows now.
Well, you already said something in the introduction of this video, but I would like to ask you to elaborate. What do you think about the Secret Service team that was on the scene? Like, did they have enough agents? Were they trained enough? Like, what went wrong with the team mix that we have on that scene?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a Tuesday morning quarterback, or in this case, a Friday morning quarterback, but I know what I saw, and based on my experience, it is pretty clear to me that these agents had not trained or worked together sufficiently to provide a seamless, flawless, super fast evacuation of the principal, the protectee, Trump. They look like they knew each other's names and so forth, but they sure didn't display any cohesiveness, any unity as a team. And so it's my belief that probably DHS agents, Secret Service answers to the DHS director the way it's structured, but Secret Service is their own independent autonomous agency. So the DHS agents, there may have been X amount of those folks in there along with a couple of Secret Service agents or more. But whatever the composition of the team, it was clear to me that they did not practice this. They didn't rehearse it. And if they did, they didn't do it very well, because it took forever to get Trump in that SUV and should not have taken nearly that long. I mean, that's mission one, is to get that protectee off the line of fire, out of the line of fire, off the X. So,
well, just for our understanding, DHS would be the Department of Homeland Security, I guess. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Maybe my viewers might not know
Sorry.
this. No, this acronym. No problem. So after this guy shot Donald Trump, then he was killed by the Secret Service snipers, and they did very well in this case. So what puzzles me is
he got 8 rounds. He got 8 rounds off before they killed him.
Okay, thanks for specifying that. What I would like to understand is how come they failed in doing something they would do on a regular basis, but they succeeded in doing something that happens only once in a while? Because I don't think that the Secret Service, shots people every single day, right?
No, they don't. And in the history of the Secret Service, as far as I recall it, we've never had an Overwatch sniper, a counter assault team is what they're called, the CAT team. We've never had a law enforcement, a sniper or CAT member take out a threat like that. But those guys train very, very routinely. I want to say they train every 30 days. They're very, very experienced. The Secret Service agent that did that, or technical officer that took the bad guy out, or neutralized him. They are the best of the best. Obviously, the investigation is going to zoom in on why it took the bad guy to initiate the shots. Maybe they couldn't see him clearly. I mean, there's 100 possible reasons, but the good news is that the former president turned just at the last instant, and that bullet or whatever it was missed his ear, or hit his ear, but missed his head. We just can't, as a democracy, we just can't afford to take too many more chances like that, because he was way closer than he should have been, and he had a high-powered rifle, which is a whole other discussion. But I'm glad that the outcome was what it was that Saturday, but I'm beside myself, angry that they got that close.
Of course. So let's try to draw a bottom line here. What went wrong? What wrong behavior can we blame? Was it lack of communication, lack of leadership, or was it underrating the threat, meaning that it was so unlikely, nothing of the sort had happened in more than 40 years, so probably they were ignoring the threats at all because they were not expecting anything of the sort to happen. What are your thoughts about what went wrong in the big picture? So
that's a good question. Let me answer that last one first. The Secret Service knows well that they don't have a crystal ball. They have analysts that provide threat support. They coordinate with the local and state police to find out what people in the area who maybe have a grudge against the person who they're protecting, maybe somebody who's acted out online, maybe somebody who's expressed a desire to kill the former president. So those sorts of people are examined, but the Secret Service, just by its culture, does not go into a small town in Pennsylvania and look around and say, well, doesn't look like much of a threat problem for us. We're going to just not follow our normal procedure. Leonardo, they have a very strict protocol that up until that day, they do follow for every single event, every single speech, every single walking tour down Old Town Milan or Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. There's strict protocols that are followed, and those protocols are enforced by the leaders. So yeah, did the agents have this go wrong and that? Yep. But at the end of the day, this falls on poor leadership that day, right there, while they were trying to extract the former president from the stage at Washington, D.C. headquarters. There's obviously a lack of leadership in terms of allowing a composite team like that to even be in place at all. And the last few Secret Service directors have not asked for more budget. Yeah, it's $1 billion agency. Do they need more? Who knows? But what we saw that Saturday suggests lack of any kind of leadership, decision-making, both tactically. The agents they performed as well as they could, given their presumed lack of previous practice or training. There's plenty of leadership up the chain of command that failed that day as well, which will all be brought out, I hope, in a thorough investigation. So it's not necessarily lack of training per se. It's the leadership piece is the most important part, and that has failed at every level. Now, all that said, I will tell you that the culture in federal law enforcement in this country for decisive leadership and making tough decisions and mentoring and coaching subordinates, it's a very hit or miss kind of thing, depending upon which agency you're talking about. But the general culture is more machismo, and let's go out and lock up bad guys, and the idea of nurturing, young leaders into more senior leaders, and that culture of leadership is still got some growing to do. It's not nearly what it ought to be, and 2 Saturdays ago we saw that pretty damn clearly.
Well, generally speaking, how do you think the Secret Service is performing their duties? Because I've been reading in the Italian newspapers, for instance, that the quality has decreased in the last 20 or 30 years or so. To be honest with you, I don't buy it. Probably because I've been a blogger and a YouTuber for 18 years. I've interviewed people who used to work for the Secret Service, and they are amazing people. So I cannot tell that My friends who have worked for the Secret Service are poorly trained people or anything of the sort. So generally speaking, what do you think about the health of this federal agency?
It's it's a tough, it's sort of a long answer. First of all, their hiring requirements have not really wavered. Their training is outstanding. It's probably the toughest federal law enforcement job out there, and I offer as evidence the fact that their attrition rate is double that of any other federal law enforcement agency. It's about 8%, and that's pretty high. And part of that goes to, honestly, the very difficult, mind-numbing job, thankless job of standing by a doorway for 8 or 10 hours in sweltering heat, or standing near a armored car for 10 hours in sweltering heat or cold. It's just a very, very, very difficult job. And they have done it so long and so well that when we see a failure, it's a monumental failure. But in general, they're a very highly regarded agency. They have, in recent years, in my opinion, suffered from lack of leadership at the director level. I think the last few directors have not acquitted themselves well, because if they had, I think the culture would be such that this event would not have happened.
What do you expect from the ongoing investigations? Because I've also heard doubts about what happened, some of which are legitimate and some of them are totally crazy, like people saying that it was staged or something like that. Of course, it wasn't staged. No one stages a shooting that hits here with a bullet. Doesn't make a shred of sense. But apart from this, what do you think about the ongoing investigations? Will they clarify who was responsible for this? Will they clarify what happened?
I think they will. Yeah, I think they will. And you saw a sense of that last week when the director on Monday, it might have been this week, when she was appeared before the House committee, and you saw a sense of how outraged all those members were. You saw a sense of, and they reflect America's outrage about it. So I don't think that Congress is going to allow the executive branch to dilly-dally on the investigations. There's going to be 3 different investigations, and I think the acting director of the Secret Service and the FBI director all appreciate that we have to, within limits, we have to investigate it promptly, find out what went wrong, and then fix it. Now, there's a few details in there, just a very few, that probably will not be publicized because that would give insights into our adversaries. So we do not want to do that, but you don't have to be a retired secret special agent guy or gal to appreciate how badly the mission failed that day. And so I think it's, all these things boil down to people, and all these decisions boil down to people and ability to lead other people in times of stress. And that day, it was lacking. And so, we can focus on a lot of technical improvements, but yeah, there's plenty of people out there who are conspiracy theorists and think that Trump did this to help his own campaign. There's a million people thinking all kinds of different things. So as one member mentioned in Congress, in the absence of facts, people are going to start inventing stuff to explain to themselves and friends what happened. And so the sooner we can get the facts out, the quicker we can put to rest these conspiracy theorists and other people who are free to speculate about it, but they don't know what they're talking about because they haven't been there and done that. So anyway.
Of course. But do you think that this episode will bring improvements also to the procedures of the or the quality of the work of the Secret Service?
Yeah, that it's It will. It's not about having more people around the protectee. It's about the people on the outer perimeter who have to be counted on to do their job day in and day out, in good weather and bad weather, even though they just might had a fight with their wife or husband. They still need to come to work and be all in. And the Secret Service should be a 100% meritocracy. By that, I mean best athlete up when it comes to the Presidential Protective Detail, when it comes to protecting former presidents who are running for re-election, in the case of President Trump here. The agents that I saw were ill-suited, many of them, for their duties that day. Just leave that alone, but just not suited properly. They weren't suited for that assignment, I guess I should say. So 100% meritocracy means that if you're qualified to do the job, no matter what you look like or don't look like, then you should do the job. But in recent years, as we know, there's been some question about whether or not these sorts of jobs are 100% merit-based. In other words, are they 100% assigned because that person's the best suited to add to that protective service detail, or are they added for some other non-operational reason? Who knows? But what I saw that day, what you saw that day, clearly spelled mediocrity. It was not at the level of the Secret Service that I worked with for 21 years on and off overseas and here. So that is going to be addressed, and hopefully with a new director, the culture will change back to that 100% meritocracy piece. My son-in-law, who's in law enforcement, federal law enforcement, uses the phrase "best athlete up." So this is not a popularity contest. This is not trying to round out Bob Jones's resume. You have to select the very best people with the very best training and experience and quick judgment, quick on their feet sort of judgment to man these very important jobs. And I hope and pray that soon an investigation will be concluded that point out the shortfalls, the deficiencies, and they will fix it. There's nobody more embarrassed and humiliated, I can tell you, than the Secret Service agents right now who are part of that agency. So I feel very bad for them. But the good news is that many philosophers have said over the years that out of misfortune can come great improvements. So this is a misfortune for America. Fortunate that he lived through it, really. But out of that, we're going to get some great improvements. And going forward, I think your viewers can be assured that people that are deemed high threat enough to get Secret Service protection will have the very, very best they have to offer. So that's the good news in all this.
Well, Tom, many thanks for your time and for your very good and interesting insight. I think that whoever has watched this video will get a very better understanding of what happened 2 weeks ago with this shooting, and probably we're also keeping some of the misinformation at bay.
Yes, I hope that's the case. I'm not going to sugarcoat what I saw. It has nothing to do with race, sex, hair color, or anything. If it did, I would have never gotten a job because my hair turned white when I was 32. So you just have to. We Americans have to be assured that, and I think it's okay to be assured that the investigation is going to find out a lot of what went wrong and how to remedy it promptly. So thanks for having me on your show, Leonardo. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Tom, for your time, and thanks everybody else for watching this, and see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.